live stream started. Mouse. What's up, everyone? I'm not going to be able to see my pretty mug today because it's too hot and I don't want to put my green screen down. So it's going to have to deal. Hey, what the hell is going on? Okay. Cut it out. There we go. Having issues with my mouse. Chat up. Start the radio. Don Jeffries on RB Ham's Beyond the Pale on Rumble. Trying to set up an interview on Thursday's episode with RB Ham. We're just trying to work out the logistics since we use two different platforms. RB, I appreciate you being willing to do it. Cheers to you, sir.
Here I have the inimitable Don Jeffries on, author of Hidden History and many other books, Surviving the Richest, and his latest Masking the Truth or Unmasking the Truth?
Masking the Truth.
Yeah, Masking the Truth, his latest book, and look up Don.
We'll see how this audio sounds on the back end. It might sound like shit. If it does, I apologize, but I'm not putting my headset in either, so we'll see how this works out.
Jeffries Masking the Truth, because it's a fantastic read and I highly recommend it to everybody. I'm just going to put this here. Here we are, RB, I'm beyond the pale. Okay, so we're going to start out. This is, of course, we haven't addressed this, me and you together, except through emails and texts, and really wondering about what the heck went on there July 13th. By the way, that was the birth of Caesar. Julius Caesar's birthday, 7/13 when they tried it. So there you go, another weird anomaly. But I wanted to start out with here. I got to do that, and then we're gonna listen to Donald Trump addressing the nation about what happened on July 13th, and we'll just listen, and then we'll do our commentary afterwards.
This evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me what happened. Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened. And you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily, because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did, they rushed to the stage. Wow. These are great people, at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely, but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper, and then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that, and I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but they just, this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And you can see that love written all over their faces.
I think you're muted, RB.
Yeah, I wanted to mute myself while we listen to that.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
So the very first thing you have to wonder is, why is he saying that I'm only going to talk about this once and never again because it's so painful to me? But the next day, he was so traumatized, he went out golfing. I mean, there's video of him out golfing. He didn't seem like so traumatized that he couldn't go golfing. Then, of course, saying that he had reached up to his ear when the bullet hit his ear, and he brought it down, and there was blood all over his hands, and he repeated again, there was blood everywhere. The video evidence really doesn't show that. And then, of course, saying later on, he had to throw in, God is with me, because the evangelicals who support him so much have already been saying that. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene said she saw an angel over his shoulder somehow. So, and then it goes back to the ear thing being the bloodiest part of your body that bleeds is your ear. And I'm thinking, well, let's take a shot to the heart, wouldn't you bleed more? If you took a shot to the jugular, wouldn't you bleed more than the ear? And the doctors told me, what doctors? And I'd like to know about who these doctors were, and if they could maybe go public with Donald Trump's wounds, so we can stop all this speculation about, well, what actually happened. Because we're going to switch now to this. I'm going to share this screen. But what do you think about that? About him saying, well...
Yeah, it's I don't know where to begin watching that, because he, like you, I noted that, you could attribute some of this to his personality, to whatever degree it's sincere.
Yeah.
He's this huge bragging guy and he exaggerates. So you could, but I mean, he said they couldn't believe how much blood there really, and you said there's the only blood we saw was a tiny bit on his cheek, and close up his ear looked bloody at the top, but there was no blood on his hand at all when he thrust it up, and then in his fighting posture, and so I don't know what he was talking about. And then the most incredible thing to me was when he lauded the Secret Service and talked about how they rushed the stage and did a great job, and the people in the audience cheered. Now, every Republican I've heard has very rightfully condemned the Secret Service for their absolute dereliction of duty. They did nothing at all for 30 minutes, whatever. It's absolutely inexcusable. Have somebody walk around with a rifle and maybe a ladder, from what we're told, and to be climbing the same building where the sniper team is inside. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Nobody, you couldn't get a preschooler to believe this. It makes no sense. So at the very least, the entire Secret Service stood down. There had to have been in on any kind of conspiracy. And Trump, instead of criticizing it, he if we believe this at face value, he almost lost his life. They almost got him killed. How could he possibly be singing? I know he loves law enforcement. How could he be singing their praises? And what is everybody in the audience cheering for? And in the next breath, those same people will cheer when some Republicans in Congress or some writers on the radio talk about how bad the Secret Service is, which it is. But, you can't have it both ways. So that I just sat there and shook my head and said, wow, this is unbelievable. How can he possibly claim they rushed the stage and did? But again, if you're believing in what we're seeing in the pictures, they lifted him up. And when he's giving the iconic photo and the hand raised, his entire front is completely exposed. It violated every Secret Service protocol in the book. None of the Secret Service agents are doing their job. It's not just the DEI hire that's ducking down. They should have pushed him down, and he should have been huddled over at the waist, and they should have ushered him out of there immediately, where nobody could get a shot at him. That's the protocol. Instead, they let him stay up, and he kept pumping his fist and stayed upright as a tall guy, presenting a great target for anybody, and saying, that the shooter. How did they know there wasn't another shooter? I mean, they knew nothing at all about this. So the whole story is just ridiculous.
Yeah, so I find that a little bit. You can attribute it to his personality, that he does love law enforcement, and the immediate Secret Service crew that surrounded him in that moment. I mean, if you are to believe it, were putting their lives on the line, because, of course, like you said, they didn't know how many shooters there were. A shot was fired, the president was down, and the immediate detail that rushed him and surrounded him right at the start. You can say, hey, that was great, but the Secret Service, the FBI, the CIA, the local cops, from a macro level, if you look down, they failed miserably. This was a terrible, terrible thing that happened. He almost lost his life. Why isn't he screaming bloody blue murder for an independent investigation immediately? Right. Why isn't he pointing out that stuff himself? He's leaving it to other people. In the meantime, he's, I guess, looking, if you want to believe what they're saying about him, he's being the bigger man. He's trying to unify the country. He doesn't want to go off crazy, but you would ask Why wouldn't you? Hey, I almost got killed. I want to immediate investigation, push hard for it, even if
Yes.
you're doing it behind the scenes. So we can look at it that way. But the other thing is, of course, this fact that the only permanent Secret Service guy there was the head of the detail. All the rest were temporary, um, assigned from Homeland Security, not Secret Service. And not everybody there was working for the Secret Service. Only the one guy who was heading the detail was Secret Service. The rest were temporary, allocated from Homeland Security. And that seems really, really odd. And nobody seems to be talking much about that and asking for their names and asking exactly what happened and who they are. And that seems to be just flying into the detail. And I mean, if you want to take the conspiratorial look at it, having those three short ladies there doing their Keystone Cops routine, perhaps that's a distraction, and that's also to discredit DEI, which doesn't need much discrediting in the eyes of people like you and me.
Yeah.
Further discredit it and make a joke out of it. I mean, if you're a woman if you're a really well-trained Secret Service agent and you're a woman, you must be looking on that with absolute horror and going, what is going on here? Why are they, why wasn't I, who am properly trained there, instead of that Melissa McCarthy lookalike? Couldn't even hold it. Makes sense when you look at it. But let's go on to this. So I'm going to play. There were three photographers there, the iconic photos. We're going to take a look at these three photographers and see exactly what their stories are and how this all came about.
Attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump. The Associated Press's Evan Bucci took this now indelible photo of the defiant Republican nominee pumping his fist in the air with an American flag flying above. And a moneymaker with Getty Images snapped the tightly framed, sobering image of Mr. Trump crunched down on the stage, surrounded by Secret Service as blood dripped down his face. And Doug Mills with the New York Times took that remarkable photo, appearing to show a bullet streaking past the former president.
Okay, I want to address something in your previous live stream you did with America Unplugged. Mm-hmm. They said the guy who took the iconic photo, Evan Bucci, who we now know, took the iconic photo, of course. And we'll just go back. Let's see here. Okay.
Yeah.
That one there. The photographer is Evan Bucci of Associated Press. Now, a lot of people are saying it's the same guy who took the photo of George W. Bush in the class, that goat thing. But I did a little digging because I want to clarify this up right at the start here. And I will stop sharing this real quick and share this. Here is the photographs. America's under attack. Bush was in Sarasota, and here we are. So we go to this photo, and this is the wide photo of the classroom. The photographer was the official White House photographer, Eric Draper. The guy who took this photo, which is iconic, right? America's was photographed by a man named Paul J. Richards.
Okay.
AFP. And then, of course, another picture. This is Eric Draper again. So I've confirmed that it's not the same guy.
Okay.
Okay? Because people, you got to really fact check these things sometimes.
Hey, good job. Yeah.
I immediately went, hey, come on now. I mean, that's just. And then we learned that Evan Bucci didn't start working for the Associated Press till after 2001. So there we go. And so I'm going to go back to the original screen share that we were looking at before. Okay, so we have that picture, and as you can see in the video, and I don't have to play the video, when he gets up and he starts going off, many times he's holding his palm open, many times he's resting it on the shoulders of a Secret Service agent. There's no blood all over the shoulder, there's no blood dripping out his hands.
No.
And he's talking about blood everywhere, but it seems fairly localized.
Yes.
Just to his ear and the side of his face. There's the picture of him by Anna Moneymaker when he's down on the ground. And this one is very interesting. I mean, I did a deep dive in what are the chances of catching the path of the bullet, the contrail of the bullet going by somebody? They looked back and they couldn't find anything close to this. They're going, this is a 1 in a million shot. So either it's photoshopped at the Pentagon level that we can't decipher, or it actually did happen. So there were shots fired, and people died, people were hit. So if this was some kind of multi-level staged event, it involves real bullets, real people getting killed, like real people getting injured, obvious Secret Service fuck-ups. So this is multi-level 11D if it's that thing. But I mean, we also have to assume Trump is a braggadocious sort, right? There was blood everywhere, trying to build it up and make himself look good. And that can be easily believed too, because he is that way. He is that way. All politicians are. Especially, I mean, let's talk about Joe Biden talking about braggadocious and making stories up out of nowhere like corn pop and everything. I mean, and there's been others too, many times, that have exaggerated events and stuff. So, and then we'll go on. Now, right here, I'm going to just play a little bit of this. As you can see, he gets up, he raises his palm many times, touches shoulders, there's no blood all over his hand.
Managed to capture these photos while being so dangerously close to the line of fire.
Did you realize that you were taking such an iconic photo as you were taking it?
No, I honestly had no idea. I was literally in the moment just trying to do my job. Like, okay, is the exposure right? Is my composition right? Do I see his face? I saw the blood coming down his face, and I knew that I got the image. But in that moment, I'm just trying to see, okay, this is probably going to be one of the most important things I'll ever photograph. Am I missing anything? Is there anything happening around me? So I wasn't thinking about like the impact of the photography. I was thinking only about like continuing to do the job, because as a photographer, I don't have a second chance. I have to get it right then and there.
I'm there to do.
Okay, so we're talking, that's Evan Bucci. I don't think he's lying. He seems like he really believes it, that he's telling the truth, and he doesn't look like he's reading from a script. So I really can't say that, I can't say he was in on it, because why would he be? I mean, right? So that seems pretty normal, don't you think? Oh, you're muted.
I muted myself because people said, somebody was saying they heard big laughter. That might be upstairs. Yeah, so that's why I muted. But it's probably coming from me. I think that to try to, and that's why I just ask the questions, and to try to figure out would Trump have been involved himself? How that kind of thing. Were there actual shots fired? Is this entire thing fake? I've had people say the entire background behind the stage, the people there, which included Vincent Fusca, by the way, the QAnon, the guy that QAnon people believe is JFK Jr. And right. And you had also a woman there who, I mean, to me, none of the people seem to react normally, but I don't know. I've never been, under fire, but I think I would duck down. I don't think I would stand up and look around and be careful. I don't think it would. I think I just instinctively know not to do that. But that's what they seem to be doing. And this one particular woman was very nonplussed, didn't react at all, and instead just started filming Trump with her camera. And she has been supposedly identified by some as the assistant director of the FBI.
I looked into that. It's not true.
It's not her. Okay. Because and again, that's so why they even came up with that, I don't know. But again, it's because of these kind of anomalies, and this happens in all the school shootings. There, and people say, "Well, you don't know how you react," and that's true. We don't know how. But I would expect some people to react. I mean, Trump was talking himself about how the crowd didn't run, they didn't, and that is odd. In a shooting incident, I would expect people to run, and maybe some would be calm, but not all of them. And I didn't see any sign. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see people ducking for cover. I haven't analyzed the video that much, but that's what I've heard.
Actually, I have, and there are people behind Trump where the shots are hitting that were ducking down and covering up. I noticed that near the front, there's a few people there looking to their right just before. So, but they might be looking at the chart, right? That's why the chart's there, a distraction. So if people say, it's weird that these few people in the front row weren't freaking out like everybody, like the other people, well, that might be why, because they were in on it. But I mean, and when he's talking about the crowd didn't run, you're saying it's very odd. What are the chances of all the people there being in on it? I mean, that's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, you're right. It is, but that's the kind of theories that rise up when you look at, and it's true. I don't know, maybe just every random crowd scene, if we analyze that way, you'd see all kinds of, peculiar things too. They could be, yeah. But again, this is all it all stems from, I think, the most obvious thing is the Secret Service stand down and then everybody acknowledging they didn't do anything. And for somebody that, investigated JFK assassination for so many years as I have, and understanding that the Secret Service stood down there, but that was 6 or 7 seconds. You're talking about maybe 30 minutes. I mean, the reports are different. Some people say they had observed this guy for 30 minutes, but I don't think there is an innocent explanation for somebody. Again, if the stories are not always the same. They kind of vary, but now we're hearing that he brought his own ladder. And he brought your own ladder, which is, it had to be a pretty big ladder to scale up that. If so, wouldn't that kind of be conspicuous? I mean, would you, especially if you're also carrying a rifle? I think all of the speculation centers around that. If the Secret Service hadn't acted the way they have, because it's the Secret Service can't prevent anything. So if there had been a sniper there, and if he had aimed and hit Trump in the head, and they couldn't have protected him when he was on stage. So then you wouldn't. I don't think anybody would be questioning anything. But the fact that this photo that you have up there now, the iconic photo, when there's so many things being violated in that picture. As I said, I pointed out, what is the agent in the back doing? You have the DEI hire kneeling down instead of pushing him down. He's supposed to be down and covered. She's not supposed to be ducking down. That makes no sense. The guy on the other side is like the policeman chained to handcuffed to Lee Harvey Oswald, who just looks, I don't know what, he's posing for a picture or something. And the agent in the back looks like he's hugging another agent or something. I don't know what he's doing behind there. So nobody's in front. So Trump is a sitting duck there. His entire head, his entire torso is exposed. They had no idea if there was another shooter. They can say that shooter had been shot. They don't know if there was another shooter. I mean, it's just, that's where all the questions come from. That's an iconic photo. It looks good if you want to believe in stuff. It's very Iwo Jima-like. I mean, it's almost posed very. If you look at it in totality, it looks just like the Iwo Jima photo with the flag there and the stick behind his arm and everything. It's kind of posed the same way.
It's almost too perfect, so you'll get people saying, "Well, it's a one-in-a-lifetime shot," and we'll have to go along with that because, anyway, I think people should go to this. This is your Substack, the Trump shooting. So many questions. Excellent article. We're just asking questions. We're not believing that everything is staged and everything is a psyop. But there's so many questions about this as far as the Secret Service goes. And so I like this. Why does that civilian on the rooftop have a gun? I don't know. Let's give him 3 minutes to see what he does. So anyway, go see this and read all his latest one about JFK Jr.'s assassination. It's fantastic. So I highly recommend that. So anyway, I want to go on to this. Now, we're going to quickly address this. I want it out of the way. This is the old Illuminati conspiracy stuff, okay? We're going to quickly. This is a very interesting, and it's an actual true thing. There is an Illuminati board game out there, and I think it was made in the late 80s. Almost like, and there's so many things about this Illuminati board game that corresponds to so many events that go on, and so they always roll up the cards, and you always wondered how accurate they were. So we'll look at this first one, the Sniper, it says. So it's a card you can deploy when you want to take out another member of the opponent, right? So you can deploy the Sniper. But on the second card is Enough is Enough. It's a card you can deploy to, at any time, at any place, a sniper can take you out, have a nice day. And doesn't it look a lot like Donald Trump? The eyebrows.
Yeah, it certainly does.
and so that was made in the late 80s. How did they know about that? And then the old charismatic leader, because that was also a card played on that day. And he's got blonde hair, and he's got a cult of people watching his every move, and he is now the charismatic leader about to lead. So this was the first card played. Another player played this card, and then the player defending against these cards played this to circumvent their 2 cards. So, and if you look it up, and I'm going to share this. I'm not making this stuff up. This is not something that's just made up at the last minute to fit the precepts you want. There is a board game called Illuminati, the Game of Conspiracy. Look it up. You can buy it online, $39.95 retail. The Illuminati board game. It comes with a T-shirt, I think, if you want. It's got an Illuminati board game T-shirt. these guys made a video about. They took it out of the pack and they had a laugh. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but you should play it. They have a laugh ride over this. They think it's just great, and there's nothing sinister to them about this at all. Of course, right? Here they are, Illuminati board game, and so it's an actual thing. You can buy it online. So there you go. It's real. So let's discuss the weirdness of that, because I know you had on your America Unplugged, the guy named Wayne. What is Wayne?
Wayne McCroy.
Yeah, and he's covered all this stuff. He brought up Ola Damigard. I mean, a lot of you involved in the truth community know about Ola Damigard, who has covered all these so-called false flag shootings and stuff. And he always sees some consistencies in them. One of them is misdirection. One of them is symbology. Illuminati symbology. A lot of it is gematria, taking numbers. And the one thing you can, and of course, the thing with numbers is you can make them up any way you want to if you really want to, right? There is the oddity of he was the 45th president. He will now be the 47th president. So if you add 4 plus 5, it equals 9, and 4 plus 7 equals 11. 9, 11. There you get. So again, that could be just a crazy coincidence. But Wayne does talk about some certain aspects about it, like the shoes. He asked to talk about getting his shoes, and Ola Damigard is displayed a lot. In all these false flag shooting events, there's always a shoe or shoes left behind. So a shoe always has to be shoehorned into the narrative. And I guess Donald wanted his shoes. Why didn't he have his shoes on at the start? That is weird.
Yeah, that's what I've asked. Is it what he said? Was he giving a speech without his shoes, or the shot that barely clipped him knocked him out of his shoes? I mean, nobody's questioning that. And again, why he was. I know he's got a tremendous ego and everything. I just
Son of
thinking
a
of myself,
bitch.
especially if you're 78 years old and you've never been around.
Love it when that happens.
Before. I can't believe he was around gunfire in his life. I don't think he was a hunter. He went to military school, but I don't. Maybe there was some gunfire associated with that. But he wasn't a veteran or anything. So and like me, I wouldn't know. I've never been around gunfire. I think I would be terrified, especially if I was that old. I would be and I knew I'd been hit in some way. I'd be terrified. Oh God, I'm really hurt. I would be concerned about my safety, and maybe people would say I'm not as brave as he was. But I don't. Very few people would have the wherewithal to realize at that instance he hadn't seen doctors.
Living up to my name, drunk
farmer, and nothing to worry about, and just jump up like that and subject himself to. I mean. Of course, the people that love him in the cult think this is an indication of how heroic he is, and I heard somebody that really say it's Homeric, it's like out of Homer, and it's like, well, maybe it would be if it's true. And Mark Zuckerberg said it's the most badass thing I've ever seen. Well, yeah, I guess maybe it is, but to me, it just doesn't strike as sincere, because I just think that, and that doesn't mean he would be a coward or anything. I think all of us would tend to stay to safety and stay there until we knew. They can say the shooter's been neutralized, but my first thought, even without being a conspiracy theorist, would be, do we know there aren't any of the shooters? Let's make sure there aren't any of the shooters, everything like that. But the last thing I would be subjecting myself just to show the crowd that I'm okay. That's
God
fine.
Damn it.
It's one thing when you're a football player and you're injured and you're being carted off the field and you wave to the crowd and everybody cheers. But you're not.
Can't wait to move this fucking chicken coop
So there's a huge
over
difference.
here.
So I find that
and move the spinnery where the chicken coop.
He is, as we said, Donald Trump is hard to analyze because he's a unique personality. To whatever degree he's sincere, so he does have that stuff in him, or that's what we think he has in him, but. I just find that between that and even if he wanted to do that, again, the Secret Service has a job to do. They were supposed to keep him down and say, no, Mr. President, you can't do that. That's not safe. We've got to get you out of here in safety. And they didn't do that. So, I mean, and that's the source of all the questions about this. People can see it in the pictures. People can see it in the witness with the BBC saying we saw this guy scaling the side of a building with a rifle. That we now know inside the building was a sniper team that was inside a building for some reason. But should you be on a sniper team if you're that unobservant that you don't notice somebody coming up the side of the building? I mean, it's like,
well, it's all crazy, and we're going to get to that right now. I'm going to share this because here's the screen share. Okay. you've covered this, and this is the weirdest thing. For years, people didn't know about this until it came out. And thank God for the internet, because it's all over the internet now. We can go in the Wayback Machine and find stuff out. But here's an interesting part of the JFK assassination back in 1963.
Everything seemed normal, so the president's Secret Service bodyguards kept their ever-watchful eyes on the crowd. Everything seemed normal as the president's motorcade began its journey. Everything seemed normal. That is, up until this instant. What took place is so odd that we're going to examine the scene 4 more times. Watch the left side of your screen. The arrow points to Agent in Charge, Amory Roberts, as he stands in the Secret Service follow-up car and motions with his hand. What he is doing is calling away the president's 2 most important bodyguards. Everything seemed normal as the president's motorcade began its journey. Everything seemed normal. That is, up until this instant. What took place is so odd that we're going to examine the scene 4 more times. Watch the left side of your screen. The arrow points to Agent in Charge, Amory Roberts, as he stands in the Secret Service follow-up car and motions with his hand. What he is doing is calling away the president's 2 most important bodyguards, the bodyguards whose job was to protect the president's back by riding on the bumper of the limousine throughout the motorcade. Watch again as he stands and orders the agents running at the rear of the president's car away. Watch the confusion inside the follow-up car that results. Now watch the right side of your screen. The arrow points to one of 2 agents whose job was to hop aboard the bumper and act as human shields. He's obviously perplexed. Watch as he shrugs his shoulders 3 times in dismay, each shrug more dramatic than the last. As you watch this scene for the final time, ask yourself, is this the kind of conduct you would expect from an agency that routinely sends an advance team to a city a month or more prior to the president's arrival in order to make preparations? Now ask yourself if the assassination could have taken place at all, had those men been on the bumper during the motorcade.
So there you go. The Secret Service stood down at the JFK assassination, and they were stood down here. I just want to address, Guff said another odd thing I noticed was the full construction holding up the stage, left speaker cluster, lower the speakers right after the shots. Well, there's actual video.
Add beer to shopping list.
Thing that there was a bullet that hit the hydraulic lift, and that's why the flag came down. Just so it's another bullet hit it. So it was another lucky thing that happened, but I do remember seeing the bullet hitting that thing. But anyway, the JFK assassination, the Secret Service were stood down for a long time. There's been people that say, obviously, there's been some involvement. The Secret Service were in on it, and it looks like it is on this occasion. Can you talk about the parallels and how obvious they are?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very strong critic of the Secret Service. I'm probably more critical than anybody else in the research community. That footage was unearthed by Vince Palomero, a friend of mine who's done great work about the Secret Service, and he wrote a book called Survivor's Guilt, and he interviewed all the guys. And he and I don't agree on politics, but he's done marvelous work on the Secret Service. Now, he and I also disagree. At first, he thought that guy who's shrugging his shoulders was a guy named Henry Ripka. I still think it is. He thinks it's somebody else named Don Lawton. But regardless, Ripka was one of several agents, and the guy, Emery Roberts, who ordered them off there, he died young. So did Ripka, before anybody could be questioned by these critics down the road. it certainly looks like Ripka, and if you look at as Vince has done, and I've seen lots of Kennedy's other motorcades, he usually has agents jogging alongside the motorcade, as they were going to do. So Ripka, you can tell, was not in on this, because he's saying, well, you know what? Clearly he's surprised by this. So this was not something he anticipated. So you can tell he's very frustrated. Now, nobody talked to his family for years. I was able to get through to his granddaughter, who didn't seem to know much, but then she referred me to her father, his son, William Law, who helped me a lot of research. I've written books with him. Great
look at that. That's
guy,
crazy.
JFK assassination, underrated researcher.
Oh,
he
you
talked to
fucker.
him for me, and
Motherfucker.
in hidden history, I have, I quote from that conversation, but it's very interesting, because both William and I feel from what he said that was his father, and he was trying to say it wasn't, but he didn't do a very convincing
Fucking Jenga
job
blocks.
of it. And that's just one indication. That's early on, but of course the real indication of Secret Service culpability is during those 6-7 seconds of gunfire. They had about 6 to 7 seconds to react to the first gunshot and the final shot that blew JFK's head off, and they did nothing. Nobody did one thing. Clint Hill ran after the shot, and so he's really useless.
What a
Nobody
pain
else
in the
did anything
ass.
else. If there had been a real investigation, the first witness you would have questioned would have been William Greer, the driver of the limousine, because he 59 witnesses said the motorcade stopped. At the very least, it slowed down significantly. Again, this is in violation of all protocol. You hear a gunshot, you speed out of the situation, you get out of there as quickly as you can. He did the exact opposite. He actually turned around and watched JFK's head get blown off. Roy Kellerman, sitting next to him in the seat there, it was his job to jump over the bumper seat where Governor Connolly and his wife were, and lay spread eagled over JFK and knock it down. That's what Rufus Youngblood do. You can see and did with LBJ. He followed protocol. A few cars back, he did nothing, and of course the agents on the backup car did nothing. And that same guy who waved people off, Emery Roberts, in the footage there, tried to stop John Reddy, who was the only agent who actually tried to do his job, and he told him to pull back. Now, I've said for a long time that the only because we know the Secret Service agents were out drinking the night before as well, till 4 in the morning or something, violating all their protocol, hungover the next day. I've said the only innocent explanation for this, the best you can say this, is that the Secret Service was told there was going to be some kind of a drill, some kind of early drill. And people who study the school shootings, 9/11, everything, know there's drills around these things all the time. And that's where a lot of the questions come from. So I just speculate. I have no evidence other than that, is to try to give the Secret Service agents a break and not believe that they were all in on the conspiracy and allowed it to happen. But if you were told, hey, we're doing a drill, the president, they could even say the president did or didn't know about it. They don't know, and just say, look, the idea is you're not supposed to react. We're trying to convince them this is a serious situation, needs to take, or something. You know what they told them, but if they were told that would explain their failure to act, and would also explain afterwards they could have been told, hey, we never expect this, let's not talk about it, or whatever. I think that's a possibility, but however you look at it, in a real investigation, they would have been raked over the coals, just like if there is a real investigation of the Trump shooting. Obviously, the Secret Service will be the first ones questioned. There's 4 people around him that allowed him to be pulled up. And if I was running the investigation, those would be the first ones I'd question. I suspect that they won't. And a lot of it has to do with Trump's, singing their praises forever. But, there are a lot of parallels there. But you can see the Secret Service proved in 1963 that they were capable of standing down. And they obviously stood down here for Trump.
Yes, that seems pretty obvious. So I just wanted to share that with the folks because when I first time I saw that footage, it just came out a few years ago, right? Like it was hidden for years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it maybe 15 years ago, but it was unknown for decades. Yeah.
And that really, if they had something like that back in the day, I'm telling you, maybe that's why today is different. Because guess what? In today's world, we have the good old cell phone, and I'm going to share this. Things aren't just adding up about this one either. So I'm going to play a little bit of this for a little while. It goes on for 12 minutes, but I'm not going to play all of it. But there are some odd details from the July 13th attempt to assassinate former President Trump. Let's find out what they are.
Details from the July 13th, 2024.
This is from the website Grunge. They're fantastic. Go subscribe to them because of all they compile everything and put it in real good form so you can kind of look for yourself and see what's going on without too much sidebar.
Attempt to assassinate former President Donald Trump just keep piling up. We keep learning more about what happened, but it still isn't making any sense. Attendees of the Butler, Pennsylvania rally where the shooting took place have told multiple news outlets that they could see the would-be assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks, crawling on the roof and preparing to take aim.
I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2 or 3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof.
That witness, Greg Smith, told the BBC that Crooks was probably not visible to the Secret Service agents because of the slope of the roof. Another witness told CBS News that he saw Crooks on the rooftops, going from one building to another. He also noted that law enforcement was made aware. Many more witnesses had similar stories.
A guy beside me looks over and he said, he has a gun. He has a gun.
So if numerous people at the rally saw the shooter well before he opened fire, why didn't the Secret Service and local police act? This seeming negligence has led numerous people, including Elon Musk and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, to call for Secret Service head Kimberly Cheadle to resign or be fired. Trump's stage was located in front of 3 side-by-side buildings with sloped triangular roofs. There's another smaller building, kitty corner to the stage area, and a larger factory on the other side past some trees. Even though the roof of the building, an AGR International building, was the furthest of all available roofs at around 150 yards, it was certainly within range for an assailant to make a fatal shot with an AR-style rifle like Crooks had. So why wasn't anyone posted up there? ABC News reports that the Secret Service is currently following this exact line of questioning. Crooks was wearing what's been described as gray camouflage while remaining as still as possible once he got in position. After Crooks fired several shots, the Secret Service counter-sniper team at the scene shot and killed him. But they were also quite a distance away from his position, on different rooftops. Where were the agents that seemingly should have been on the AGR building roof? As an unnamed former Secret Service agent told NBC News, someone should have been on the roof or securing the building so no one could get on the roof. According to officials, plenty of people agreed that the AGR building was a security threat. What's much less clear is whose responsibility it was to secure it. Sources told NBC News that although the Secret Service had identified the building as a potential problem, they had also told local police to take the responsibility for securing that particular building. However, Butler County District Attorney Richard Goldinger said the Secret Service ran the show. They were the ones who designated who did what. To me, the whole thing is under the jurisdiction of the Secret Service.
I would have expected that they would have had that building secured.
Several days after the shooting, news outlets were still not reporting any concrete answers as to how Crooks got up on the roof or why the building hadn't been included in the Secret Service's secured perimeter. In an interview with ABC News, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle acknowledged that there were a number of buildings in that outlying area that were similarly assigned to local law enforcement for security. But she also noted,
the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
We know from Cheadle herself that the security of the nearby AGR building had been delegated to local police. The Secret Service director also offered an explanation as to why no one was on the roof, telling ABC News, that building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so there's a safety factor that would be considered there that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so the decision was made to secure the building from inside. There have been reports from the BBC and other outlets that there were 3 police snipers inside the AGR building. But a police spokesman told the New York Times that wasn't the case. They said that their officers were in an adjacent building. The Times reported that multiple local law enforcement agencies contended that their counter-snipers were positioned on the 2nd floor of a different building and had been specifically instructed to watch the crowd, not to secure buildings. Likewise, several former Secret Service agents have also stated that a sloped roof is not a factor that unconditionally rules out a building as a location for a sniper or other officers. Some have pointed out another nearby building with an even steeper sloped roof was occupied by Secret Service snipers at the time of the shooting. According to the Washington Post, 86 seconds passed between bystanders' first attempts to warn authorities and the shooting. It has also since come out that local law enforcement officers had been aware of Crooks' presence and that he had been acting suspiciously long before that. In fact, there's evidence authorities had flagged Crooks as a potential threat well before he climbed the AGR building. There have been reports that officers saw Crooks scouring the grounds with a rangefinder. An unnamed U.S. official told NBC News that Crooks had been described as pacing back and forth and behaving in a noticeably strange way while near the magnetometers that had been set up for rally security. Local authorities considered Crooks suspicious enough that they had set off to pursue him on foot and reportedly relayed that information to the Secret Service. Former Secret Service agents have questioned why plainclothes agents were not sent to respond to the reported threat of Crooks' presence nearby the rally, though there have been some reports that agents were after him and lost sight of the shooter. According to CBS News, two sources familiar with a congressional briefing on the assassination attempt said agents relayed the sighting of Crooks by radio by 5:52 p.m., about 19 minutes before he shot at Trump. Sources also told police were as long as an hour before the shooting, but it took local authorities 30 minutes to relay that information to the Secret Service. Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming told NBC News that the Secret Service's briefing to Congress was a, quote, cover your ass briefing, noting that the shooter
had a rangefinder, a backpack, and then they lost sight of him and never really followed up on that.
One source told Fox News that sometime on Saturday, Crooks' parents notified police that their son was missing along with his father's AR-style .556 rifle. Police have not revealed what, if any, action they took after being contacted by the would-be assassin's family. With all that lead time and a clearly identified threat, it's unclear why Trump was allowed to take the stage at all. According to ABC News, law enforcement officials said Secret Service snipers locked onto Crooks 11 seconds after his first shot, and 15 seconds later, they shot him dead. That may seem fast, but in a heated moment like that, every second counts. Where was the hair trigger reaction? Two retired snipers, a former Secret Service agent and a former Marine sniper, told the Washington Post the slant of the roof and the surrounding trees likely made it difficult for the two counter-sniper units to acquire their target. Jason Lawless, a retired officer who worked as a sniper with the Tulsa Police Department, said after Crooks took his first shots, one of the snipers on the northern team flinched and took his eye away from the scope before resetting his position. Before Crooks opened fire, the second sniper team, the southernmost one, reoriented itself, which the Post suggested could mean it was aware of the threat. Audio experts heard 10 gunshots across the footage of the incident. They told the Post that the first 8, fired over 6 seconds, had similar audio signatures. Immediately after this flurry of bullets, another came from a different location, followed by the final shot 16 seconds after Crooks began shooting. Both had different acoustic characteristics than the first 8. Though they noted this type of analysis is not 100% accurate, it suggests the security locked onto Crooks about 6 seconds after he started shooting. It certainly made for an iconic photo. Donald Trump with blood on his ear and face, his fist in the air immediately after an assassination attempt. But should agents have allowed him to put parts of his body back into the line of fire? Or retrieve his shoes, which came off when he hit the deck?
Let me get my shoes.
Yes, Crooks was confirmed to be down by then, but Secret Service agents are trained to assume there are multiple shooters. If there happened to be another on July 13th, the former president might have been killed. Richard H., a UK close protection expert and former member of the Royal Military Police, told NBC News, "The moment you know you are getting incoming rounds, you grab hold onto that boss and you throw him into a car and you get out of there as quickly as you can with the maximum amount of aggression." He added, "They stayed on that stage for over a minute. What on earth were they doing? It was shocking." Jeffrey James, a retired 22-year Secret Service veteran, told the New York Times that there would be no wasted time getting the president away from danger if he had been on that stage. He said, "We are going, and we are going now. If it's me, I'm buying him a new pair of shoes."
Well, there you go. All the weird anomalies done really well, like driving quickly. Of course, they didn't mention the water tower and there's a few eyewitnesses who say there was a man in the water tower who was shooting too, and that he got shot. And so, but how accurate are they? And of course, will that ever come to light once the cover-up commission starts? Will they ever interview those people? So there's the water angle. There is the Shepherd Ambellis. Shepherd Ambellis, look him up on Rumble or YouTube. Shepherd Ambellis.
Good stuff.
He said there was a trajectory. He did trajectory analysis and said that the shot came parallel. So he thinks the shot came from inside that building, not on top of that building, and that Crooks was just a patsy to distract everybody, because obviously he was distracting everybody. He went up there a whole minute before.
Except law enforcement.
Yeah. Distract, look over there. And instead, the real shot came from somewhere else. And of course, that's like a magic trick, right? So,
yeah, it's what happened with RFK, certainly with Sirhan there. But that video did a great job, because I mean, anybody looking at that you should be shaking your head. I don't have any confidence, and this is why, to the larger picture, why people end up, when they hear these things, they doubt that there's any truth in it, because we're being lied to so much that it's hard to accept anything they're saying.
Yeah.
This is all a show. We don't know, because they lie incessantly. And when you see something like this, if this was an honest system, at the very least, every Secret Service agent there would be fired. And whatever law enforcement there, they'd be fired too. Anybody that was, because none of them did their job. They were informed by witnesses trying to say, hey, the law enforcement lost track of them. They tried to catch up. What are they talking about? It doesn't even make any sense. And this is, I don't think it was that big of a location, but, when you talk about Dallas in 1963, that would have been a logistics nightmare. You see all the buildings during that motorcade, all the buildings they passed by. To put somebody up on every one of those buildings would have been tough, because there's a lot of them there. Here you're talking about what? I don't know, 4 maybe? I don't know how many buildings there were there. Not many. Handful of them. They could have easily put somebody in each one. As you pointed out, the slope roof thing is particularly an insult to anyone's intelligence, because, as they pointed out, they were on another sloped roof. And if this is the case, you couldn't get somebody to go up and put a new roof on or anything like that, because how many roofs are flat? I mean, most of them have some kind of slope to them. So the idea there was a danger, and for that Cheadle woman to use that as an excuse, again, she should be fired too. She won't resign. Okay, she won't resign. She needs to be fired. And this head should roll for this, because again, if you're trying to present this as an assassination attempt, if it's an assassination attempt, then all those people should be fired, because they didn't do their job and they made it possible. Now, if they're not fired, the conspiracy people out there, the paranoid about there, those of us that are down the rabbit holes, are just going to assume, hey, this is a psyop. The whole thing's ridiculous. Otherwise, you would have seen a response. This was just, okay, this is a Secret Service agents. They hate Trump. They're planted in there. They stood down. At the very least, they didn't try. But when you do nothing like they did, and when you prop him up like that, as the video pointed out, you can't. You're not going to. Your people are going to speculate, and there's going to be a lot of irresponsible speculation, because we're being lied to about the central facts of it. And I don't have, as you said, the cover-up commission. That's what it'll be. I don't have any confidence that there'll be any kind of a commission that will investigate and unferret the truth. You're muted again.
There is this, and we'll have to find out. We'll find out later how valid is this. Is this just more theater? Are Republican congressmen and representatives going to actually grab a hold of this with their teeth and tear into it? Is Kimberly Cheadle just the convenient head that will roll eventually?
Congress has no teeth.
Where all the attention is focused on, so they don't look at other parts to it, like perhaps the CIA or the FBI's involvement. Keep it all focused on the Secret Service and Kimberly Cheadle, the obvious DEI hire, and go after her, because this is what happened at the Republican National Convention.
Alert, GOP senators confronting Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle at the RNC. They've been demanding answers after the assassination attempt on Saturday on former President Donald Trump.
She won't talk to people, she won't talk to them. Chad Pergram joins us now with details. Chad, what happened?
Brian, good morning. This confrontation at the convention emphasizes how incensed lawmakers are at Cheadle after the epic security breakdown. Republicans John Barrasso and Marsha Blackburn hectored Cheadle when they found her at the GOP convention. Cheadle did not appear on 2 conference calls about the shooting yesterday. FBI Director Christopher Wray led the calls with House and Senate members. One member said they cut off the call after only 4 questions.
Completely unsatisfied. It was a complete covered briefing by the Secret Service. The director of the Secret Service needs to lose her job. This was appalling. They shut it after just a couple of questions and didn't get to any of the meat of the matter.
Now, Cheadle agreed to appear before the House Oversight Committee on Monday. House Oversight.
Okay, guys, I'm calling it quits for the day. See you on the flip side. Peace out.